Hey, what is up? Welcome to this very special episode of the Wantrepreneur to Entrepreneur podcast. As always, I'm your host, Brian Lofrumento, and I'm joined by a guest today who, ever since our team came across Emily's work, we have been so excited about having her here on the show. In a second, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Emily, but I want to talk to you, the listeners, first, because in today's episode, you're going to hear a story not just about someone who's awesome at business, who's awesome at what she does, and who is an entrepreneur like all of us, but also someone whose story is so inspiring, and there's so many different perspectives that I'm so excited to hear from Emily, because she's someone who practices what she preaches. She is a shining example in everything that she does. So with all of that said, let me tell you a little bit about today's guest. Her name is Emily Hartstone. She has been there and done that, from her professional career in big business to running her own businesses to being involved in nonprofits. Emily is a specialist in event planning and meetings. She has helped startups and businesses grow. She's a motivational speaker. In addition to being an entrepreneur herself, she owns a boutique gift shop with one of her business partners. Emily has an incredible story, and in addition to all of those accomplishments, she's also been battling leukemia and Graves' disease. She's been through chemotherapy, through countless surgeries, and through all of that. One thing actually Emily told our show as we were onboarding her as a guest is that sometimes she actually takes Zoom calls from a hospital bed. So Emily is an incredible bundle of so much goodness in this world. So without further ado, I'm excited to jump into my interview today with Emily Hartstone. Emily, I am so excited to have you here on the show today. Welcome to the Wantrepreneur to Entrepreneur podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Heck yeah. So listeners heard me talk a little bit about you, but the fun part, I always love sharing a little bit of behind the scenes stuff. And when I asked you for your bio, you actually wrote, "Say whatever you want. I'm just here to inspire everyone with my story, not pat myself on the back." And Emily, I love that. So hopefully my intro to you does a little bit of justice to all the things that you do, but I'd love for you to fill in the gaps for listeners. Who is Emily?
Yeah, no, that was great. I mean, you can rewrite my LinkedIn bio anytime you'd like. It's always so hard writing and speaking about myself, because I really just want to get my story out there as much as I can, really to inspire anybody else that's going through the battles that I've been through. Obviously, you mentioned it. I am still battling leukemia and Graves' disease. And I know a lot of people are going through that themselves and trying to start a business and work every day. And some days are better than others, but you can do it. So thank you for having me on, first and foremost. I really appreciate it. But you hit it. I definitely go through anything from being a motivational speaker and having a few different businesses. So my baby and my biggest one is my association management company. That one really defines who I am. I like to tell people it's doing the most good for the world, really. So we help manage the day-to-day operations for nonprofit organizations. So anything from, we have building inspector associations to medical associations, but I try to not take on any clients that doesn't have a mission to do good for the world. And I think that came from when I first became sick. I really had to figure out the why and what is my mission in the world, and why am I here? Why is this happening? So I definitely had my 48 hours of a pity party, I like to say, and did the why me. But I think I decided that God put me here really to help people. And so with that, that's kind of how I formed the first company. And then I love people. I love being around people, so events by nature. But I did grow up, this all rewind a little bit, riding horses. And when I first was diagnosed, I wasn't allowed to ride anymore. So that was kind of heartbreaking. And one of my friends knew somebody that needed help with an event. So I was helping the person, and she ended up, long story short, getting fired 2 weeks before the convention. It was in Las Vegas, and I was kind of fed to the wolves, but I loved it. It was so much fun. And obviously you can tell I'm a very energetic person. So I kind of stayed with it. And while I have the nonprofit organization and the management company, I will never give up events. It's kind of, I don't know, for me, it's not really a job. It's just something I love to do. Everybody and my friends, they'll never understand that I don't do like birthday parties and events like that. It's convention planning. So in the nonprofit company, we do their conventions and stuff as well. But I always joke around and say, like, I'll never do a wedding ever. I'll never do the bride or their families. But, we'll always continue to help the nonprofits, and events are a large part of that. So, and then my gift company that I'm sorry, they're mowing the lawn outside of my office right now. The gift company that you said kind of fits in with all of that as well. So we like to go into hospitals, which also is, still follows the nonprofit side of things. So we give 5 to 10% of every order online or purchase in the store to a different organization every month. So it all ties back together. All of our companies, we like to call it like the From the Heart empire, because everything is from the heart in the company's names, but it really does come from the heart. I joke around and say, like, the Miss America pageants, they were always like in world peace at the end, and it's so corny, but that's kind of like what we're trying to do. So we do the best we can.
Heck yeah, I love that overview, and obviously so many things that we're going to dive into. But Emily, I'll be fully transparent with you here on this episode, is that 6 years ago when I started this podcast, I was already a few years into my own entrepreneurial journey, and I committed back then to every single week having conversations and having topics about mindset and motivation, because to me, that's the hard part of entrepreneurship. And with that comes so many ups, so many downs, so many challenges, so many moments of self-doubt, so many moments of questioning. And to me, that's something that inside of your story, beyond just business, I realized that that's I don't even want to call it a battle. That is the challenge that you step up to and you rise up to every day. And you've already said it just in your intro, is that some days are better than others. I want to hear about that. I want to really dive into those ups and downs, because business is just one component of life. I always say business is a microcosm of life. Share some of those insights with us.
Yeah, and I appreciate you asking that, because a lot of people don't actually in my interviews. They want to touch on the highs, and I think it's really important also to touch on the lows, because I try to stay so positive and so inspiring, but I think it almost gives a false sense of reality to some of the people that are watching, because I definitely have days where I curl up in a ball and cry my eyes out, and that's the truth, right? It's very hard to go through something like leukemia. I mean, it's cancer, that's what it is. So while they might give it a more fun name, that's what you're dealing with. So going through chemo and waking up in the morning and having to do that, and you throw up for sometimes 48 hours afterwards. And like you said, I'm taking Zoom calls. I try and put on a jacket over my hospital gown so I look more professional, but some days I can't even do that because I'm just dripping sweat. So it is difficult, but I think you just try to think about, okay, it's 48 hours. When's the last time you've been really excited to see your best friend might be coming into town, and you're like 2 more days, and how fast that went by. And you just try to think of things like that you're going to get to the other side, and it's not as bad as it seems. I just really try to stay as positive as I can in those moments, because sometimes it just feels like the world is coming down on me and the world is going to end. But I just have to stay positive. I know that I do stuff that is really extreme sometimes. Like I have a little puppy running around here because I just needed a pick-me-up. And so I was like, I'm getting a puppy. But it's the best thing that's ever happened to me, and she's awesome. And I needed that because it was hard to pull through. I was just recently diagnosed with yet another thing. And my autoimmune, I call it autoimmune bingo, because I can fill up a bingo card of all the autoimmune diseases that I have on top of the leukemia and Graves' disease. So it's not just those 2 things that I deal with. But you just have to keep pushing and keep going. And, giving up is just not an option. And you have to have that mindset no matter what.
Yeah, I love you using the example of think about the last time you were looking forward to seeing your best friend and it was 48 hours away. I can get through this. That's one awesome illustration of how you get through those moments. And I obviously have had my fair share of low moments as well. And all of us have in all of our different ways. And that's something you mentioned time. That's something I always remind myself of. This too shall pass. I've gotten through so many hard things before. I'll continue to get through so many hard things. So on that note, Emily, it's fun for me to hear the way that you think. Obviously, I really admire the way that you think with so many different challenges that you face, and you continue to do so much good in the world. I'd love for you to share some of your inner dialogue with us. So for me, it's always quotes. I'm a sucker for quotes. Quotes have guided me through so many tough times in life. What are the inner thoughts that you have? Obviously, you talk about some of the lows, but what are the ways to dig yourself out of those lows?
Yeah, I really I listen to music a lot. I know, I'm sorry, my little puppy's running around here. On Instagram, they always have, the songs that are trending, and a lot of them are awesome quotes and stuff for business, but also for mindset. And I know that sounds so stupid because it's turning to social media, and in this day and age, a lot of social media is bringing people down with bullying. So I'm not saying that that's the best thing in the world right now, but there are some really good ones lately. So I kind of put on a playlist and I put my headphones in and I blast the music. And a lot of the songs are about people saying that you can't do it and you're doing it, and I just blare them in my ears and I put it on repeat and I listen to them over and over and over. So more than self-talk, I think that's I kind of do the opposite. It's the doubting songs that I listen to, honestly, and that's kind of weird, but that's really what I do. And as everybody says never give up, I think it comes from a little bit of a different place with me just because of the stuff I have gone through. But I just constantly live that. I buy all the stickers. My computer is covered in vinyl stickers that say that. And my next tattoo is going to say that, and I'm going to put it right, I'm left-handed, so I'm going to put it right on my wrist. So every time I'm writing, I see it. I'm just waiting for the doctors to okay it. So I don't know. It's a little bit backwards. I think the way that I think. But my family tells me I'm backwards every day. So
I love that. No, honestly, and it is an illustration of healthy ways to use social media as an outlet that improves your life, not detracts from your life. So I love those insights. And you're right. Anytime I'm on TikTok, for example, yes, guilty as charged, I always end up looking up those songs on Spotify because you're right. So many of them are so good. And you mentioned the times where most people quit or people try to tell you that you should quit. I'd love to hear about that, especially from you. I know reading some different interviews with you and going into your background that you've had doctors say, hey, with your conditions, there's only this amount of time to live. But it seems to me, looking from the outside, that you've said, I don't care about anyone else's perspective on my situation. I'm going to keep doing good. Talk to us about those moments. And Emily, I'm going to throw you a little bit of a curveball because surely there are moments, surely there are times where even for a split second, you do have those intrusive thoughts of, what am I doing? Why am I doing all of this hard stuff and putting myself out there? What are those moments like for you?
Yeah, of course. There are definitely times where I'm I should be laying in bed. Just last week I put myself in the hospital because I stood at an event for 48 hours and I should have sat down and taken a break, and I didn't because I didn't want to let my clients down, and then we were worried about a blood clot in my leg, but I wasn't going to listen. I wasn't going to sit down. So I think, I don't know. I think it's just, again, it's all about, it really is just all about mindset. I think you have to listen to yourself. The doctors are definitely, I like to compare it really to the social injustice stuff that's going on in police officers. I know that's pretty deep, but it's the truth. You look at police officers and they're supposed to be the good guys, and you're supposed to look up to them and listen to them, and everything that they say is true, but it's not correct. And it's the same thing with a doctor. They're not always right, and it's just as easy for a doctor to, this is extreme again, but to get a divorce or break up with their boyfriend or girlfriend the night before and then walk into the operating room and you're their patient the next morning. they're not going to be in a good mood. And unfortunately, that might get taken out on you. So you really have to advocate for yourself. And I've just learned that like what they tell me isn't necessarily going to be correct. And whether that's about putting a time stamp on my life, or even if they diagnose me with something that I don't necessarily agree with. Everybody says they have Google. Well, Google saved my life and did diagnose me. I disagreed with the doctor, and then I got on an airplane and went to Mayo Clinic, and I was correct. So you just really have to believe in yourself and listen to yourself, whether that means, a diagnosis or telling yourself to stay in bed or not to stay in bed and pushing through. What is right and what is wrong and what's best for yourself, and how far is too far or what is not enough, I think, more than anybody else. I was joking around. I put a post on Instagram the other day that said something about like an alpha female. They don't travel in packs. They often work alone. And somebody like went at me, some random person, just about like, oh, it's so cocky of you to say like you're an alpha female. And I was like, that isn't at all what I even meant. I was just relating like, yeah, when you work that hard, you normally don't have time to go out with your friends and stuff. It was like totally taken the wrong way. And it was just like, oh my God. But, it's the truth. You just kind of do your own thing, I guess. Like you walk to the beat of a different drum, as my family says. It's true. I do, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I love that. And I can definitely see that. And as a fellow entrepreneur, I also can relate to how often our family and our close circle of friends looks in and they wonder, what the heck are we all doing? Because it is a path that fewer people take. And I love the fact that you showed the human element of any path. You're right. Police officers, doctors, it's easy for us to throw these labels and titles out there, but they are humans after all. And no human is more competent than any other at telling us what our stories need to be. And it's what I love about your story is that you're the only one writing it. And you talk about working hard, and obviously you have your hands in so many different businesses. So I'm super curious to hear the insights and I guess the realities of what that looks like for you. A lot of people struggle with their time management when they're running one company, let alone as many as you're involved in. How have you managed to balance all of those things in life with also those external needs and challenges that we've talked about?
Yeah, I'll be the first to admit I'm not the person to look to when you're trying to learn time management skills. I probably work 22 hours a day. I don't know how I can function with the little sleep that I do in addition to being sick. I think actually somebody sent me an article the other day that tells, it's like you have two different genes, like every human has it, and I have the gene where you don't need a lot of sleep and you can function highly like that. And so thank God I do, because I have to really, I don't know, like I'm always working, and I'm okay with that. Like I don't really drink ever. I don't like the taste of alcohol. So I'm okay with that. If I never had a drink for the rest of my life, like I'd be okay with that. So I definitely miss hanging out with my friends as much as I used to. I force them to come see me. But it just is what it is. I mean, I have to get my business done. Some of them understand, some of them don't. I always joke around, and a lot of the people that have a rare disease or chronic illness understand this. Like you really learn who your true friends are, because they'll stick around or they don't. Because it's hard. There's something called the spoon theory that a girl with chronic illness made up, and it was how she explains like what it feels like to have a chronic illness. And she used the spoons and compared that to her energy, that you start off with a handful of spoons in the morning, and each spoon represents like your energy. So to take a shower, that is 5 spoons, and it really helps you explain it to family and friends. And it's just very difficult to have somebody understand that sitting up in bed takes a chunk of your energy. Standing up takes a chunk of your energy. I also have something called POTS, where you stand up and the blood drops to your feet. It's called blood pooling, and it takes all of your body's energy to pump it back up to your brain, and your heart starts pounding and your blood pressure can drop, and sometimes you just black out for no reason. And so when I'm doing events and I go to a hotel and I have my pre-conference meeting, I have to sit there and tell the hotels, oh, and by the way, if I black out, just like walk over me. I'll stand up in 5 minutes. please don't call 911 and send me to the hospital, because they're going to keep me there for everything else they find in my blood work and probably diagnose me with autoimmune disease number 100, and I'll miss my event, but I'll wake up in 5 minutes, like nothing happened. So it's just, you have to learn how to deal with all these kinds of things. And my friends, the good ones that have stuck around, they really, it's almost like I tell them, like, they know what not to say also, is another really big thing. Sometimes is even more important than knowing what to say. So, between juggling the time, I think, and having the friends that you need around you, has been a really big thing for me to learn, letting go of the people that were almost like extra baggage, and extra weight in my life. So coming the two of them, but for time management, it's just not something to look up to me for. I can tell you that right now.
I love and I love your insights. I'm totally going to Google after our interview here today about that gene, because it sounds like you and I got opposite genes there. So I got the other half. I adore 8 hours of sleep a night, but we both definitely share the not liking alcohol gene. So lucky for us that we have that in common.
I don't know how to taste.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I want to ask you this, Emily, because it's something that I've said on so many Mindset and Motivation Monday episodes before, which is, actually I did one pretty recently where we talked about every disadvantage has its advantage. And I felt that personally in my entrepreneurial journey very early on when it came to, in my particular case at that time, student loans. My first attitude towards student loans was, I can't afford to start my business because I have $80,000 in student loan debt. And then one day I woke up and I realized, well, that could become my advantage. I have to start my business. I have to succeed because I have $80,000 in student loan debt. And when I look at all the different work that you do, particularly with your boutique gift shop, I love you and your business partner. So much of that helps you actually pay for your own medical services that you need. And you also use it to enable you to give back to other people in similar situations. Talk to us about how you viewed, because an entrepreneurial journey is not easy. Talk to us about that mental perspective of, let me turn my disadvantages into my advantages. Because Emily, clearly you are succeeding because of all of these other things as well. So I'd love your insights.
That's very true. That's definitely my mindset. Not succeeding, it's just not an option. My life depends on it. So you're correct. The gift company was started to help pay my medical bills because I just have surgery after surgery after surgery. And the way that I started these last round of surgeries, they did not tell me that my insurance wasn't going to cover it if I chose option B, which I did. So it's just been hundreds of thousands of dollars out of pocket, and I don't have a choice to not do them. So I just have to keep going. And maybe that's one of the reasons as well that I don't sit down when I need to, or sleep when I need to, because I know that if I don't, my life could be on the line here. So, and very quickly, it's not something like, oh, you can wait a couple of weeks. It's like, they need to happen now. So, I definitely, if I need to open another company and make it work, it's definitely going to happen. So I think, yeah, absolutely. If you have something, even if it's not life-threatening, like in my situation, but like you said with student loans, or there's something that is going to push you to do something or open a business, it absolutely helps you for sure. 100%. Yes, I agree with you there. Definitely.
Yeah, I love that. And for me, one part of your story that is an additional layer of challenge that I love that you're always up to is, not only do you run your e-commerce business, for example, where you sell products, but you actually are very involved in the day-to-day. You have an agency that works directly with clients, and managing a client roster is something that is very taxing on every agency owner. So Emily, I'd love to hear your insights in the way that you manage not only the different businesses, but also your client roster, working in all these different industries. What are the types of things that you realize, holy cow, this is my area of specialty? You call it your zone of genius. What is it that enables you to manage that client roster and, let's face it, put together some awesome events all across the country?
I think I always joke, but I think it's kind of a little true. It's like ADHD, my energy. No, I think, working in events and hospitality, you kind of get that knack for customer service and the love of people. And my hardest thing, and I think my downfall, is not wanting to let go of a lot of the work and being able to delegate it out. So I think always having the human touch factor and that relationship with all of my clients. I mean, I call them my family. Like, we're all kind of family. So I wouldn't really be able to. I always say, like, I really need to hire another me right now, and I'm kind of in that process, but it's very hard because I wouldn't ever just be able to, like, here you go and hand off the clients to them and not really still interact with them on a daily basis. That would be very weird for me. So even though that's where I'm at right now, I do need to do that. But it is very hard for me. And I think that it's coming from a hospitality background because you're trained to have that attitude and make sure everybody is okay and have that deep customer service. So it's very strange for me. But I do use a lot of project management platforms and tools, like ClickUp, for example, which I think is amazing. I always feel like a walking advertisement for them, but it's just very helpful, whether you're working in an office or you're home, or you can be on the beach and have the app on your phone to work with your team. But it's just a very useful tool to manage everything. So you can have different boards on there, so you can work across that platform, but across all your different companies on there. And I definitely use that to help me. And I think that's one of the reasons I can stay involved with the different clients. And they can work on those boards too. So it is a very useful tool. And just, I don't know, I think, again, I wouldn't really want to step back from talking to each of the clients every day. And it's not because I don't trust the people that work with me and work for me, but I just want to, I don't know, I want to have that contact with them. It's just different for me, I think.
Yeah, and obviously,
make me sleep.
Yeah, it makes sense for me as a fellow people lover. I feel the same way with you. A lot of people, when they look at my businesses, they say, well, if you remove you from this part of the equation, then you could scale, or you can build these processes and make them more efficient. And for me, I'm like, yeah, but then I wouldn't love my businesses as much as I do. Yeah. So I totally relate to you in that element. And for all of you listeners, you just heard Emily reveal one of her favorite tools. I know how much people love the business insider secrets as far as like ClickUp. I'm a huge fan of ClickUp as well. So I love to hear that that's your project management tool. Emily, I want to ask you this though, because obviously up to this point, we've talked about your story and how much you are persevering every single day. But it's also fun because here we have in this interview an expert in something that's so important for business growth, which is events. And you've talked about your hospitality background and understanding the human element of it as well. So Emily, I want to ask you this question for people who are listening. What are some of your top tips to make people feel the love in everything that you do? Because it's evident in your work, but I'd love for you to hear your tips on how others can share that in their own work.
Sure. I think, it's all about breaking it down, right? Especially in today's day and age, people just forget to go back to the basics, I think. Like human touch. It's just like everybody is going to, okay, back it up now to kids, right? Kids right now are just on iPads, and there's nothing. I'm trying to explain this the best way I can right now. Nobody is saying thank you anymore and holding doors anymore. I live in South Florida, and when somebody holds a door right now, it's almost like you either get a funny look because they're so shocked that you held the door for them, or you get a funny look because they just are obnoxious and they don't care to say thank you. And I think just going back to basics right now, people really just need to chill out. I don't know if COVID made people go crazy or what happened, but I keep saying this in my interviews, and this isn't even just with work. This is just in general. People just need to start being nicer to each other. And I know this is, you really are asking me about in your work, but this reflects on your work as well. It's just surprising to me. I just did an event at a hotel, and I was just shocked at the hospitality and the customer service, the lack of it. Not even as another event professional, but even if I were just a customer there. So I think people really notice it, and it makes you just really stand out now if you just go back to basics and have, like, I mean, as crazy as it sounds, like human decency. It's sad, but it's true. I think people during COVID just like lost it a little bit. I don't know. It's very hard to find good workers right now, whether you're hiring or whether you're just trying to, you're just a customer. I mean, it's the truth and it's sad. So I think whether you're trying to do it for your own business or again, you're just a customer, just going back to basics and starting from scratch. I think people need to break it down right now, because it's all over the place and everybody's talking about it. And it really is just like a sad time in business. And I don't know what it is, but it's hard. It's hard to hire. It's hard to train. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know whether it's like people need to watch more webinars. I don't know what it is, or put webinars out, but it really is just sad. I don't know what else to say. I mean, it's kind of like it's taking the words from me. I talk about this all the time with my coworkers and with my friends in business. It's just a very different time right now.
Yeah, I hear you on so much of that, and I agree with you that I think something happened over the past 3 years, and a lot of us chalk it up to the pandemic, but the reality is we've lost that human element, and I think we have a nature in business to say things like B2B, business to business sales, and we forget that every business to business sale is a human-to-human sale as well. And so, Emily, having interacted with you even before our interview, I love the way you interact with our team and your emails. We can feel your energy, we can feel your passion and your enthusiasm for what you do. And you're right, that is not only life advice, but typically good life advice is also good business advice. So I love that that's what you chose to share with our audience there. Emily, we could go on all day with your story, but as we come to the end of this interview, every once in a while I ask a broad question. I always ask guests, what's your best business advice for people as they're starting? But for you, Emily, I'd love to see your little mix in, because I know how much mindset is a key proponent to your growth personally and professionally as well. So I'd love for you to share your top mindset perspective or shift or story for listeners that they can keep their mind on when they face troubles in their own business growth.
I think that, I am going to kind of like mix it in a little bit. For my story here, I worked for somebody for 6 years, and this person was like a mother to me, was there for me when I woke up from surgeries. We were very, very close, and I was offered a lot of positions when I was working for her, like big positions, 6-figure positions, and I was her succession plan, so I stayed with her, and I wasn't paid very much when I worked for her, but I knew, it was going to pay off. It was going to pay off, because I just kept telling myself that, because she was like a mother to me. And I mean, she was really there sometimes, even when my own parents were not. And I just stayed, and I ended up pretty much running the entire business. She was kind of fading out. And one day she walked in before a big leukemia surgery and said, "I sold the office." And I was like, okay, so is this really, when you're going to leave then? Like, are you done and we're going to kind of phase it over? And I never heard from her again. And that was it. And we did own one other company together. We had started that a couple of months prior. And so I went to the bank because I had a bad feeling, and she drained the bank account, took everything. And again, like, I had never heard from her again. And as you know now, like, I work in hospitality, so I contracted a bunch of events with hotels, and as a planner, you get commission for that. Because the company was in her name, she had taken like $80,000 worth of commissions, which would have paid for the next surgery I needed. But not only that, she canceled the health insurance, again, the day before surgery, everything. So the next day, I was trying to like soak in what had just happened. But I did go to the hospital to have my surgery, and as they're literally trying to drag me down the hallway to the operating room, I'm on the phone with the insurance company trying to get my staff insurance and incorporate my company, and that's my company now. And I could go on and on about this, but the long story short is, I knew in my head that I should have left this company, whether she was still like a mother figure or not, with these other opportunities that I had, because I was so good at my job and what I did, and I was so undervalued and underpaid. And I knew that for years. And I really did believe that I was going to end up owning that company. But I also knew that I was really undervalued and underpaid. And especially because I had major health issues, and I really needed that money at the time. But I was so scared to take that next step and almost like restart, right? Because it would be starting over on my own. I knew clients would probably come with me because they had never even met her at that time, because I was already running the business. but I was just so scared of taking that next step. And when I finally was forced to, it took 2 weeks before I was on the cover of a magazine. I was winning the biggest awards in my industry. And I was just like, oh my God. I mean, I should have just left so many years ago. Why didn't I do this? So my biggest piece of advice to anybody listening to this is just honestly and please believe in yourself. And if you think that, and I'm not saying, okay, like everybody go quit their job, and start your business if you're not ready. But if you think you're ready, do it. Believe in yourself and you've got this, because, you should be valued. And it's scary to go on your own, yes, but find a mentor. We're always happy to mentor people for free. You can always email us. We'll always give you our advice. And if you're not sure if you're ready to start, we'll give you our honest opinion. But don't sit there and work your bum off and be undervalued, because there is something better on the other side.
Heck yes, I love the power in that advice, and I love how you talked about sometimes we're forced to, sometimes we're pushed into something that's bigger and better and that's more meant for us. Sometimes that's the way that the universe works, is it takes something away from us to give us something better. And Emily, you are living that, not only then at that point in your life and career, but also now you're putting so much good out into the world. And on that note, I love how you already told listeners, hey, reach out to us. We love mentoring people. We love giving our perspective, having been as involved as you are in so many different organizations and businesses and nonprofits and seen their growth. So that's a natural segue for me, Emily, to open the stage to you. I know you're putting out so much awesome content, not only through your work, but also on your Instagram. So share with listeners where they can go to learn more about your work and follow everything that it is that you're doing.
Yeah, definitely. So you can find me on Instagram is at mpromo, PROMO_heart. And my last name is HART. So it's the heart, and everything you're about to hear is HART. And our website is fromtheheartllc.com. Like you heard me say earlier, I'm the one that responds to everything. So from my Instagram, you can find the links to all of our websites, foundations, and everything. So that's the easiest way. So that's mpromo_heart. On Instagram.
Heck yeah. So listeners, whether you're on the go or wherever it is that you're tuning into this episode, whether you're on Spotify or iTunes, just look below this episode and you will see all the links that Emily has just pointed us towards. Her business website is fromtheheartllc.com, HART, fromtheheartllc.com. Definitely check her out on Instagram. Emily, your story has been one of perseverance and persistence, and I love everything that it is that you put into the world. So thanks so much for coming on and sharing your story today with the Wantrepreneur to Entrepreneur podcast.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.